Welcome everyone. Today our presentation will be on hosted desktops and how you can use them to modernize your IT infrastructure. Hosted desktops have come a long way from 20 years ago where there are many more benefits than them just being desktop in a cloud or in a data center. We will go over these more in depth during this presentation. Hi, my name is Scott Urofsky and I am the Cloud and Managed Services Practice Manager here at Meriplex. I have about 30 years experience in the managed services industry. Started out as a system engineer, going on site, helping clients with their technology, whether it's troubleshooting or coming up with technology roadmaps, upgrades and new systems. This gave me lots of experience to truly understand the server's infrastructure of our customers, and then playing that consulting role to help them through their technology role and also to help enhance their business outcomes. All right, introduction here to what we'll be going over today. So a little of the agenda. One, we'll be going over the introduction to cloud computing, understanding hosted desktops, what they are, benefits of hosted desktops, cost reduction and scalability, cybersecurity, business continuity, how that's inherently built into hosted desktops. We'll give you a real-world example of a current client, and then we'll go over what the cloud readiness assessment Meriplex has and how that can help you out. All right, first we'll run into what are hosted desktops. Some of you may already be using some form of VDI hosted desktop, whether it be Citrix, Terminal Server, VMware Horizon. They're all variations of a hosted desktop platform. Hosted desktops fall under the term of cloud computing, which just means you're accessing your data from an outside source, whether that's a service provider or a data center miles from your office. Instead of storing data working from your on-site server room, you're accessing this data that is stored remotely somewhere, which we call the cloud. Most of the time you are renting compute from a service provider versus buying the hardware and software yourself. This is licensed to run within your own four walls. A common analogy to this, when you're consuming cloud, you're renting versus buying. You're buying all the services that all come with licensing and everything that you need to run versus buying your own IT infrastructure that you're going to run within your own server room. Okay, now a little bit of history on server-based computing. Years ago, there was a form of hosted desktop, which we had dumb terminals that were linked back to a large mainframe in a server room. Anything you saw on the screen was from the mainframe. The local terminal had no local storage or the ability to run any software. Eventually, we evolved into PCs in the 80s where everything would run locally, and we would just share data from the server closet. Then in the 90s, we came back to server-based computing with terminal services from Microsoft and then Citrix. Oftentimes this was done all locally with servers in a local server closet and the PCs on the local network. What happened here was, it was just drawing the screen of the images onto the remote machine, which was the virtual desktop. There was no data transferring from the server to the end PC. It was only a screen redraw. So this again was like back in the old days with dumb terminals where you would only see the text from the mainframe come across. We're going to go over some key benefits of hosted desktops, how they help reduce IT costs, how they are scalable, how they inherently give you some business continuity, how do they help with cybersecurity, how do they help with working from anywhere and from any device, and then what administrative benefits do they give your IT team. All right, first we'll go into reduce costs. Now, how can a VDI reduce costs? It can decrease the cost of managing and maintaining full PCs at the desktop by centralizing all software and maintenance to the data center. The endpoints become almost dumb terminals and don't need much maintenance or support. New users are easy to set up since all they need to do is connect to the VDI in the cloud versus imaging a new computer, completing the setup on a local device. You don't need to purchase new servers or equipment since all the VDI and software is maintained in the data center by the service provider. No more server upgrades, downtime for replacing equipment, and licensing renewal. This is all done as a service. Endpoint hardware refresh. Part of this is we can convert older computers over to a thin client that runs on a secure OS compatible with all x86 devices, which is most PCs out in the field. Endpoints will be able to run all modern collaboration software, including Teams. Portable USB stick can actually boot any PC into a thin client without destroying the underlying operating system. This can be used when traveling or for home computers. These endpoints can also all be managed centrally. We expect less end user interruption diagnosing issues with the endpoint since the endpoint is turned into a thin client. This also extends the life of your current laptops and workstations. You have a 3 to 5 year old laptop or workstation converted into a thin client, could last another 5 years. The data is secure and not saved in the endpoint. What that's talking about is the thin OS. There's nowhere to save any documents. So everything's saved in a central location out in the data center where the VDI is being delivered. This way everything is securely stored and backed up. You don't have to worry about an endpoint machine dying, being stolen, lost, whatever that might be. Everything is centrally located and backed up. These new endpoints can be deployed in minutes versus hours. Normally, if you buy a new machine, you have to image it, you have to load all the software, you have to get it ready for that end user. VDIs already have a golden image in the data center. They have all the software. They're already set up. They're ready to go for the end user to start using them. Okay, we have a little slide here about return on investment. We did a comparison between traditional workstations and then VDI as a service. Traditional workstation, usually you have hardware replacement, you have labor for the workstation set up, then you have the new user workstation set up, then you have set up patching, disposal of old equipment, remote user support, and then field user support. We see these last 1 to 3 or 3 to 5 years. So 5-year traditional workstation setup is about $1.3 million. If we take a look at desktop as a service, the desktop as a service is $80 per user, remote users $50 to support, field user support when needed, and then productivity gained by the end user because there's less interruptions, runs much smoother, less errors or issues with the hosted desktop. 5-year savings would come out to $350,000. So 5 years, $976,000 compared to 1.3 is where we get to $353,000 in savings. What you don't see in here are probably some additional savings on other licensing that is needed on the local machine, which would not be needed anymore if you're going with a VDI. There was no local antivirus or other security software needed locally. This will all run within the data center. Here's another calculator we use on what does it look like to convert old PCs into thin clients. How can you save money on acquisition costs? So take a 100 user example, 100 devices, acquisition costs on notebooks and laptops, $1,150 on average, deployment costs, $250 on average, and then the license cost annually with Windows, security software, and other yearly licenses that you have to maintain on a local endpoint that's running Windows. And then we have an average of one person handling that many machines locally, $55,000 a year. This comes out here to a total of $182,367 in savings over 3 years. So if we take this total here, this is a traditional way of handling it, and then we compare it to converting the machines to thin clients, right? As you can see here, when you have thin clients, you're saving on the acquisition costs, you're saving on deployment, you're saving on licensing because you don't have a Windows OS license, and then maintenance is about the same because these are all essentially maintained. We still have to do firmware updates. There could be some additional savings here depending on what licenses we need or not, but it's a substantial savings than working with traditional hardware refreshes. All right, for scalability, as you add employees to scale, your technology becomes very easy and efficient. New users start on Monday, just takes a few minutes to set them up on the hosted desktop. They log in with their endpoint, everything's ready to go. Applications and software on all their settings. If more storage or any other resources are needed, It just takes minutes to scale them up from the cloud control panel for immediate use. No more buying additional hardware and then downtime for upgrades. All licensing needed to run your hosted desktop is also included in the monthly cost. All VDI licenses and Microsoft licenses are scaled up and down as needed. You do not have to renew or buy new subscriptions. This way you buy and use what you need each month versus having to buy Microsoft licenses all up front. You may not use them all, or if you do use them all, you have to go out and buy more. And then you have a jagged edge of when the renewals end. So because everything is consumed monthly with hosted desktop, this keeps everything in line, makes everything very easy to scale up and down. Our data centers are built out with the intentions of being very highly available. All of our data centers have 2 or more generators with multiple power feeds coming in from different paths. They're all backed up with batteries, so if the power fails, the switch to the generator is seamless. Disaster recovery services can be added to replicate all data and servers to another data center. In the event of a disaster, recovery times are in as little as 1 hour, and data loss is as little as 8 seconds. Normally in this situation, you're recovering from backups that could take days, and it would be from the night before, so you would actually lose a lot more of 8 seconds of data. You could lose a total of 24 hours of data. All right, our data center infrastructure is secure with physical security and biometrics entry devices. No unauthorized staff is allowed in the buildings or server cabinets. VDIs are protected with enterprise-grade security tools like antivirus, managed detection and response that are all monitored 24/7 by our SOC. VDIs have security built-in features like anti-key logging, encryption end-to-end, watermarking to protect sending documents to your email or taking a picture with a cell phone. And it also has anti-screen capture, meaning if someone tries to capture a screen, it would just come up gray when they go to paste it. I get this question a lot. What if everything is in the cloud and I only have SaaS apps and I just need a browser? Why VDI? Well, VDI browser keeps everything secured and isolated. All settings are stored locally. You can have a whitelist of SaaS applications, so they're only accessible from the VDI. So the end users can't try to log into these applications when they are outside the server facility. This happens a lot when we're talking to clients and they ask about SaaS apps and asking why can't they just run a SaaS app from the local machine? Again, you need to make sure those local machines are secure. You have to make sure all the security tools are on them. They can get a virus. When you're using your SaaS apps from a VDI, the servers are locked down. All the security tools are updated and maintained by us, making sure everything's up to date. And you can have much more strict policies on what applications the end users are using, what SaaS apps they're using, making sure all of the correct extensions are loaded, drivers are loaded, that SaaS app is working properly. Now, the data centers also have compliance. For example, HIPAA, all of our data centers are SOC 2 Type 2 reviewed, so they basically fit any type of compliance needed. Just talk with one of us and we can go over all the compliance that fits those data centers. All right, securely work from anywhere. So basically you can access your virtual desktop from anywhere on any device. This includes tablets, phones. Security can be added that only authorized staff can remotely access the VDI while being remote. You only need a browser and you don't need a plugin to access your VDI. No major changes to the endpoint device. You can even boot from a USB key to make the endpoint a thin client from your home or kid's computer. Once the USB key is removed, the computer goes back to being a regular computer. You do not have to format the hard drive. You do not have to convert it into a thin client. So that's another nice, benefit of having this software, that basically you can go anywhere, log into your virtual desktop securely. Okay, what administrative benefits do we have here? Automatic updates are included in your monthly service, meaning all patches, security items, system upgrades were all handled by Meriplex. We're doing this monthly, We have scheduled maintenance windows that's being handled. You do not have to worry about updating your own servers anymore. You will be no longer vulnerable to security threats that are targeting legacy systems. All of our OSs are kept up to date. We don't have any end-of-life OS running. If you have any end-of-life OS runnings within our data centers, we will work with you to come up with an upgrade project to make sure that they're on the latest and greatest and that you're not running on end-of-life with any security vulnerabilities. Up-to-date versions of software, whether it's Adobe, Microsoft Office, whatever it might be. The nice thing about this is we can update it on one image, so upgrades are usually pretty simple. When we upgrade the golden image, all the rest of the virtual desktops have the new image, meaning we can upgrade overnight, whether it's 100 people, 1,000 people. Let's say there's a Microsoft Office upgrade. We can get everyone up to date, usually within minutes, versus having to go to every single machine and upgrading the software. New user rollouts are quick, easy. All it takes is a ticket. Need to add these users. They're coming in the next morning to start. We add them. We assign them to their desktops. When they come in and log in, they have their desktops with all their software and settings ready to go. Some additional benefits, some value adds, analytics on performance end-to-end. User calls in with a problem, says their desktop is slow. We actually can see with our advanced analytics, it breaks it down to where the problem could be. Is it an internet connection? Is it their local machine? Is it a local hard drive? This makes it so our help desk technicians can quickly identify any issues and where those issues are. So this way, this really helps us limit interruption to end user productivity, just because it makes it very easy for us to find out where the problem is and quickly fix it. Reporting on end user productivity, what that means is we have a system that can actually give you a report. It can send you a report in an email showing when does the user log in, when do they log off, how long were they active for. This can be used or not used, or it can be emailed, or you can just do an on-demand report for it. Device trust, what that is, we talked about that a little bit earlier, is there's an additional benefit where you can just trust company devices to connect to your virtual desktops, meaning someone cannot go home and use their kid's computer to connect unless you want those devices to be trusted. So we can work with you in doing specific devices that are trusted to connect. This way you can be sure no one else can connect to your infrastructure unless they have the correct device in their hands. Application security ports is another value add that our system goes through all the applications that are running, making sure they're up to date, making sure there's no vulnerabilities compared to the security database reports. All right, protecting your identity, device, apps, and data. Again, physical data centers are secured. Physical security along with virtual security with all of the security applications running within the data center. And we have our 24/7 SOC watching alerts and watching any suspicious activity that would be happening on the network. Session recording, what that is, that actually allows you to record a Citrix session. You may want to record a session for training. You may want to record an end user session just to see how they're doing their job during the day, or if there's someone you need to monitor. This system has the capability of doing that as well. Okay, just to do a quick review on a long-term care providers in the healthcare industry that one of our clients now for 6 years. They're running hosted desktop, 58 location, 8,000 employees, 3,000 hosted desktops, 1,200 thin clients. They had thin clients that were 10 years old or older. They were still working well with the system. We just started a refresh to get new thin clients into the different locations. Since we brought this customer on board, re-architected their hosted desktop solution, everything's been very, very, very stable. We rarely see any issues. Sometimes we get calls, obviously, on Microsoft Office software. Maybe there's some questions, but rarely do we have an issue with any downtime or outages just because of the redundancy built into the system. This customer has seen how this has made this very easy for them when they acquire new locations or add new users. It's a very simple remote setup. Our team goes in, sets up the users and security groups of where they're going to be, and then when those users walk up to the computer in the morning, log in, they have all their applications, they have all their desktops, they're ready to work. And now for the cloud readiness assessment. We're offering a free assessment to any client that currently isn't in the cloud yet, but would like to see if all of their applications, network, bandwidth, and endpoints would work properly in a cloud solution. We'll actually do a high-level look at what you currently have in your offices. We're going to look at your networking gear, your networking switches, your wireless, your internet bandwidth, all the applications you run, and will they run in the cloud properly? And we'll write up a whole total cost of ownership, return on investment, and also go if you can't run in the cloud because something needs to be updated. We can go over that with you as well. What will it take to get there, um, and also see how long would it take you to make that move to the cloud. We do have phased approaches. Maybe you have multiple locations. Maybe you want to do one location at a time. We can do a hybrid approach. Maybe it's one application at a time you want to start going to the cloud with. But this cloud readiness assessment will help us figure out your roadmap to the cloud. All right, and that is it for the presentation today. If there's any questions, please let us know. Thank you.